Aloha, everyone, including Senator Dela Cruz walking around. We are convening our joint committee on economic development, energy, and tourism, and our good friends from the Committee on Government Operations. This is our 310 agenda, and let me take care of some housekeeping announcements. As you may know, this meeting, including the audio and video of remote participants, is being streamed live on YouTube. You will find links on viewing options on all the Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. Therefore, you can watch us and this hearing free all day, every day to your delight. In the unlikely event that we hit some technical turbulence and this hearing takes a nosedive, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 3 o'clock on Friday, February 19th. A public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. For those participating remotely, all testify audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it's your turn to testify. So we're going to get into our first item on this agenda, that is Senate Bill 1341 relating to the State Energy Office. On our testifiers list, we have Gwen Yamamoto Lau from GEMS.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. Gwen Yamamoto Lau, the Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. We stand on our written testimony in opposition of this bill and are available for questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Gwen. Scott Glenn from the State Energy Office.
Aloha, Chair Wakai, and Chairman Vice Chairman Talucha, Chair Marwaki, and Vice Chair Dela Cruz, members of the committee. I'm Scott Glenn, Chief Energy Officer, and we stand on our written testimony in opposition to the measure and are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. And members, those are the only two people we have testifying. Any questions for Scott or Gwen? Okay, if not, I will hand it over to my partner in progress, Senator Moriwaki.
For the next one?
Yes, next bill.
Okay, so we are looking at Senate Bill, this is a joint hearing of Government Operations and EET on Senate Bill 1371 on intergovernmental wheeling. The first person up is Dean Nishina, Division of Consumer Advocacy. Is Dean on?
Hi, Senator. They're not present.
No.
Oh, okay, next is Jay Griffin from the Public Utilities Commission with comments. Is Jay on? Hi, Jay.
Hi, I'm here. Yeah, we stand, good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of both committees. We stand on our written testimony offering comments and available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kevin Katsura from Hawaiian Electric in opposition. Kevin?
Hi, Chair Marwaki and members of the committee and Chair Wakai. My name is Kevin Katsura, testifying on Hawaiian Electric Companies, and we are opposed to SB 1371. Wheeling is a very complex subject, as you folks know. There's a lot of issues that need to be dealt with, and including the financial costs and impacts of government wheeling on non-wheeling customers, impacts that it would have on other IPPs that we currently have under the RFPs that we've already contracted with, as well as identifying power backup issues and what the appropriate rates would be. And we went through a pretty lengthy process through the PBR process to establish priorities and to relook at the regulation of the utilities in terms of its compensation system and its rate-making ability. And, you know, a lot of these things, we hate to go back at this juncture. We like BR to kind of go forward and without having a major change in policy at this stage. So we would recommend, we will stand in opposition of this bill.
Thank you. Next, is there anybody else who is on Zoom that wants to testify? Okay, I have written testimony from Frederick Riddell from Hawaii Clean Power Alliance in support. Charles Ice from Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii in support. And I think that's it. Any questions, members?
I have a question, Chair.
Question, Senator?
So for Hawaiian Electric, could you help me understand how in your testimony, you stated that this bill would delay our ability to achieve the state's 100% renewable energy future.
Sure. So, we have different things that are initiatives that are going on right now. So the way we procure renewable energy now, we have certain RFPs that are in the hopper right now. So we have phase 1 and phase 2, and beginning to look at phase 3. And so we have mechanisms through the PUC that's going on right now where we acquire renewable energy for everyone to lower our rates and also to move to our 100% renewable energy goal. And the way that government wheeling would work, or wheeling in general, right, it basically would allow the government then entities to go and contract on their own separately and have a separate mechanism to acquire renewable energy. And in that sense, we'll be competing almost against the government for the limited land and the resources as well as the projects available. We're going to need, if you look at DBED's projections, we're going to need almost all the available land that's out there in order to meet the 100% renewable energy goals. So certain concepts and mechanisms seem like it has merit, but sometimes they conflict with what's actually going on. So in that sense, it may slow down. And there's also issues in terms of priority. So the way wheeling would work is usually it's a contract between the entities separate from the utility. So we wouldn't necessarily know or have a say when the electricity is delivered. So basically we would have to take it on our system. And right now, when we can't take on as much renewable energy, we have a thing called curtailment where we actually have to curtail our units, and then we curtail as the renewable energy of some of our IPPs, and usually it's the last producer that came in, right, that starts to get curtailed first. So we can't take all the energy on the system on certain times of the day. So it could affect the priority, and we would have to try and sort that out in terms of how that would work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have one question for PUC. Jay Griffin, are you still there? Jay.
Yeah,
Hi, Jay.
Senator.
Hi.
Sure. Hi.
Have you seen the HECO testimony in terms of some of their critical issues?
I have. I've seen it.
So this bill authorizes the PUC to adopt rules to actually look at some of these impacts on the utilities. So if looking at those 5 critical issues, would PUC be looking at that if it were to look at wheeling by any party coming before you?
By the 5 issues, you mean some of the points
Yeah,
that
the
Mr.
financial
Katsura
costs,
said?
the impact on the utilities, and so on.
Correct. And so maybe I'll step back a little bit. I mean, the commission has said we support the intent in this.
Yeah.
This has been.
And so my question is, HECO is saying that, that has this impact on them, but the bill itself, the language says that you would be looking at the impacts on the utility before making any determination of actually approving the wheeling.
Correct. And I think the way the current language gives us latitude to address those if you include the recommended language we've offered, that if we can do this particularly through order, we have to do it through rulemaking. That's a little more inflexible process and order process.
But the question is that you would be looking at those critical issues if you were to do it by order as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Senator Wakai? Chair
Thank you.
Wakai?
I have a question for Jay. I'm looking at Dean Nishina's testimony, and he cites there are 3 dockets open that kind of touch on wheeling. One was in 2018 regarding microgrids. A more recent docket was open in 2019 for wheeling tariffs. And these dockets have been open for 3 years. When is the PUC going to make some decisions on how and if we're going to embrace wheeling?
So let me take those one at a time. So I think each of the dockets that Mr. Nishina cited touch on the topic, but don't directly, it's not been the entire focus. In the microgrid docket, we did offer the opportunity on the NELHA campus for flexibility there for NELHA to work with HELCO to implement wheeling on their campus. And at the time, it sounded like they have not taken up that opportunity. So the microgrid docket is focused more on a different set of topics. We've just received filings on that. Final set or another round of filings earlier this month, and we'll be going forward with decision making on it. So we've not had an explicit focus on wheeling kind of as a standalone topic. And I think the intent of our testimony is if there's strong interest, direction from the legislature, we'll take it up. As Mr. Katsura said, it is complicated. I mean, fundamentally, we need to figure out what is the appropriate charge for use of the utilities infrastructure, some of the grid operational challenges of if we have multiple projects trying to export their power onto the grid at the same time. So it would take some time, but we're open to looking to it if there's a strong desire from the legislature.
Okay, but the 2019 docket that cited by Mr. Nishino has a lot more study of wheeling. I understand the microgrids was kind of collateral, but this one does. And I mean, I'm just wondering, it's taken 2 years. When are we actually going to get you to make some decisions on whether we embrace wheeling in this state?
Senator, I believe we've put our priority on trying to bring some of the other utility, I mean, priority has been on a lot of the other dockets been before us. The phase 1, phase 2 RFPs, performance-based regulation, and the whole list of dockets and topics. And so I think we're turning the page on a lot of those. And again, if this is a strong desire, we'll take the policy direction from the legislature and look to implement it.
Okay, thank you. I have one question for Hiko. I understand your testimony in opposition is kind of based on financials, right? You don't want to see people peeling off from the grid, which will leave those who are kind of left over on the grid, generally smaller players, to have to pay for the operations of the maintenance of the grid. But in this particular case, it's government serving government. So in this case, it's the ratepayers that are going to save money, and the ratepayers in this case are the taxpayers of Hawaii. So there's a community and public benefit for exploring wheeling when it's government to government, right? We're not taking stuff to Ala Moana or hotels, some of your bigger clients. This is government to government.
So I understand the analogy in terms of the government to government, but in this instance, what it is the usage. So say the government decided to do its own solar farm on say Kahuku side or whatever side, a certain side of the island or someplace, and if they put a large solar farm up there, they'll have less usage, right? And then they'll benefit from the reduced cost, but not other customers would not. They'll be left holding at least the cost of the system, right? The remaining cost of the fixed cost of the system. So in that sense, when the government might be benefiting, but the other customers will be paying more, in a sense, to cover the cost, or at least the sales loss, right? In terms of having the government taking a large chunk of their sales load off the system. And then usually, I understand the argument that the taxpayer and the ratepayer are the same, but in ours, the ratepayers would get the benefits of renewable energy as they come on the system fairly quickly. I think on a taxpayer basis, to return some of that savings to the taxpayer itself, it would have to be done in terms of a tax reduction, right? In terms of getting that back to the taxpayer.
What's the per mile cost for transmission of electricity for HECO?
I don't know that offhand, but it's kind of a misnomer in that you're not actually transferring you calculate, a lot of times wheeling will calculate distance by miles in terms of the distance that it's traveling. But in reality, the way that it works is that we just have to take the power on the system wherever it comes on, right? Because the system's a closed system. So basically, if you provide 10 megawatts, we're going to have to take that on the system, and we're going to have to balance the load for the whole system, regardless of where it's coming. The charge is usually based on some kind of miles on the concept transporting it. But in the reality of how you're running the system is actually you're just taking it onto the system as a whole.
Okay, well, I'm sure HECO has some type of calculation on how much it costs per mile to transfer electricity. Can you get that to the committee? What that cost is?
Follow up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, shall we go into recess?
Yeah, let's go to the small room.
Okay, we're going to go into recess for decision-making.
Welcome back. Recess is Powell. We're back on our 310 agenda with the Joint Committees on Economic Development, Energy, and Tourism, and our pals from the Committee on Government Operations. For the first measure on the 310 agenda is Senate Bill 1341 regarding or relating to the State Energy Office. This is our effort to streamline government and put the GEMS program, which is should be closely aligned with the Hawaii State Energy Office, and puts GEMS under HSEO. So the recommendation is to pass this measure as is. Members, any questions or discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For Senate Bill 1341, for Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, Chair recommends pass as is. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes with reservations. Senator Lee is excused. Senator Revere is excused. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Your recommendation's adopted, Chair.
Great, thank you.
Okay, same recommendation.
For the same recommendations for the government operations, Chair votes aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Gabbard, excused. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Recommendation adopted.
Next one's your bill.
Okay, moving on to the Government Operations EET Committees, Senate Bill 1371 relating to intergovernmental wheeling. The chair votes to amend the bill to take the PUC language to include order of the commission. Chair votes aye.
Okay, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Gabbard, excused. Senator Favela.
The bill.
Aye.
Recommendation adopted.
For members of the EET, same recommendation to pass this measure with amendments. Any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For Senate Bill 1371, Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, Chair recommends pass with amendments. For members present, are there any nays or reservations? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Beautiful, we're adjourned. Okay, hope you didn't miss us too much. The Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism is back with a vengeance for two more agendas. We are on our 3:30 agenda, and first on this agenda is Senate Bill 1320 relating to regenerative tourism. First in our testifiers list, we have John DeFries from the Hawaii Tourism Authority.
Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and committee members, HTU stands by its written testimony dated February 17th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeFries. Danielle Bass from the Office of Planning.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee. The Office of Planning supports the intent of this measure, offers comments and 7 amendments. We find this to be complementary to the state's and public's intention to transition to a more sustainable form of tourism as a part of Hawaii's long-term recovery and resilience. I'm available for any questions if need be. Thank you.
Good, thank you. That's all we have for live testimony. Members, we have plenty, like dozens of pieces of testimony, all in support. Actually, maybe 2 of them with just commentary, but overwhelming support. Members, any questions of Mr. DeFries or Ms. Bass? No? Okay, thank you for joining us, John and Danielle. We're going to move on to our next item on this agenda relating to environmental protection, Senate Bill 666. And first, on our testifiers list for this measure is DLNR, Emma Yuen.
Aloha, this is Emma Ewan. We stand on our testimony and support.
Thank you, Emma. And we have next, John DeFries from HTA. I don't know if John's still there.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, hi, John.
Mr. Chair, I am, we stand by our comments that were offered in yesterday's submittal.
Okay,
And we'll stand by for questions.
thank you, Mr. DeFries. Danielle Bass from the Office of Planning.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee. Office of Planning supports the intent of this measure, offers some significant comments for the committee's consideration, and I am available for any questions by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Craig Hirai from Budget and Finance has submitted commentary. Isaac Choi from the Department of Taxation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Josh Michaels on behalf of the Director of Tax. We'll stand on our testimony offering comments.
Thank you, Josh. We have a supportive testimony from Randy Pereira, HGEA. Mufi Hanneman from the Hawaii Lodging Association has submitted testimony opposition. Michael Munakata from Ulupona.
Aloha, Chair Wakai, Vice Chairman Salucha, and members of the committee, Micah Munikata on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We will stand on our testimony supporting the intent. We do have some additional recommendations within our testimony, looking to expand upon some of where these revenues are going. In addition to natural resource management, we are seeing that Aloha Plus Challenge goals can be met with local agriculture and clean ground transportation, as the bill identifies in its preamble. So we'd like to see some of those revenues go towards those efforts as well, and available for any questions if needed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Micah. We have a supportive testimony from Gary Hoosier, Dyson Chi, and Janice Palama Glenny. We have also supportive testimony from Maui OFR, and we have Caitlin Jacobs online from the Surfrider Foundation.
Aloha, Chair. Surfrider Foundation Hawaii region stands on our written testimony in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Charlie Quincell has submitted testimony opposition. Stephanie Donahoe from the Kohala Coast Resort Association has submitted testimony in opposition. Chris Caulfield from Imua Alliance in support. Commentary from Myung Oh at the Chamber of Commerce. And we have Tom Yamachika, I think, from the Tax Foundation online. Tom, I don't think is there.
Senator, they're not present.
Okay, and we have a lot of individuals who submitted testimony in support, and also Eileen Nani, has submitted testimony in support. Is Eileen on? I don't think so. We also have indication that John Kittinger would be online if he is. Oh, there you are.
Hi, Chair Wakai, and thank you to the committee for hearing this. We've worked on this initiative for several years, developing the policy basis for it. It's a strong bill, and we're very supportive of it as a coalition, and thank you for hearing it and giving it the chance to be debated and discussed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kittinger. And that is all the online testimony that we have. Members, any questions?
I have a question, Chair.
Yep.
Dear Lennar.
Yes.
So, yeah. Have you folks done any, I realize that the numbers are not there and it's difficult to project as far as how many tourists we're going to have or what the usage would be for, but I'm just curious for my own frame of reference. Have you done a pro forma on how much revenues we hope to generate from this green fees?
No, we haven't, and that would be more appropriately something that potentially the Hawaii Tourism Authority or maybe BNF might be able to respond to. However, we do have statistics on how much interns that we have been able to create a workforce jobs with and those sorts of things. So we kind of have the background on the implementation rather than the finances of this project.
Okay. One of the comments, and I think it might be from HLTA, and again with HGA as well, about the need to perhaps bifurcate the residents versus the non-residents, so that there would be two different fee structure. Would that be something you would consider, albeit from what I gathered in some of the hearings that I've been in today, actually, that may not be constitutional from the AGs, and again, this is from a prior hearing. So have you explored that idea at all? Because then that way, albeit some residents may be willing to pay the green fees because they know that it's going to a good cause.
Well, that is something that I believe we would really defer to the legislature to determine what would be appropriate. This was a bill that was introduced by the legislature. It's not an admin package, but we would be supportive of whatever and would defer to whatever you folks are interested in pushing forward.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Sure. Senator Misalucha, just to answer your previous question as how much they anticipate to take, Department of Taxation estimates this would bring in $146 million a year. I mean, it's a substantial sum.
That is a substantial
of
sum.
money. Is Mr. DeFries still on? John?
Yes, Chair.
Hi, Mr. DeFries. No, I'm receptive to this idea. I'm just curious about the implementation of it, because right now the bill says that you have to pay this fee just once a year. So somehow, if I love Hawaii and I come 4 times a year, that somehow government's going to know that I'm only going to tax you once. And do you see a problem with, like, how are we going to determine that you came only one time to Hawaii?
You know, I think in our comments that we offered, we had some concern about the tax collection mechanism and how that gets tracked. You know, in principle, we believe that the visitor should be carrying a responsibility to conserve our natural environment and to nurture that. It really has more to do with our concern about tracking and the manner in which this new tax would be collected. Beyond that, I personally have not examined it. I mean, we have a tax collection mechanism called the transient accommodations tax that I think we should look at to achieve some goals in common. But, you know, that's the extent of my ability to comment right now on it.
Yeah, from an administrative standpoint, it would just seem like you're just going to pay it every time you set foot in a hotel or an Airbnb. Do you think it's reasonable to?
Well, yeah, and I think one other aspect is if I'm a business traveler and I'm here in meetings all day, you know, me having to pay this fee would strike me, would rub me the wrong way, right? If I'm just here solely on business, not on leisure. So you're gonna have some of those distinctions to make. But I go back to the idea about creating a new tax and tracking that new tax collection and then being able to make the kind of distinctions about whether I'm a multiple returnee in the course of that 1 year or just a sole trip.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, I like the whole notion, and I know Jack and them have been working on this vigorously, and Eric, and they're to be applauded for that.
Mm-hmm. You know, Senator Misalucha alluded to how we're going to cut the locals out and put this entirely on the tourists. But that is an assumption that somehow locals don't affect the natural resources. And, I mean, locals are just as much at fault sometimes for the degradation of our natural resources. So would it be, I mean, is it really smart for us to kind of cut them? I mean, just administratively, it's going to be all over the place. But I think we have to make it clear that locals, I mean, you do some bad things and you should pay for some of the upkeep of the things that you step on. So trying to cut out the locals from this, to me, would be one problematic. And then two, I don't know. locals should help pay for the preservation of environmental issues as well as the tourists. You think so, Mr. DeFries?
You know, I do. Whether or not they deserve a break is another issue in it, but we all should be carrying our share in this effort.
Okay. And sorry, Mr. DeFries, you're the only one from the kind of hotel industry on this call. And so I have one final question with regard to, this thing goes into effect in July of this year, which is way too quick. And it really, to me, doesn't take into account what exactly is the impact to our natural resources. Shouldn't it be based on visitor numbers? So when we hit a certain threshold, then it kicks in. But you know, when we're expecting, well, last year we had 2.7 million visitors, and from all that I read in the paper, the impact because of the lack of tourists has been far less on our environment. So if this bill is really about how do we manage the impact of tourists on our natural resources, then we should have it somehow tied to visitor numbers, where at this point, the impact is pretty minimal, so why are we taxing them? But when they get over a certain threshold, let's say 5 million or so, then we kick this into gear. I think that's a better approach.
That could be an option. I think, two of my colleagues, Stephanie Donahoe and Ruthie Hanneman, I think submitted testimonies in opposition to it. I think the greater concern, if I were to speak for the industry stakeholders, is adding an additional tax and fee while you're trying to reintroduce and relaunch the industry at scale. And so I think that's why you got that reaction. Here at HTA, natural resources is one of our pillars in the strategic plan. The Aloha Plus Challenge is embedded in the strategic plan. We have obligations and responsibilities there, which is one of the reasons we're taking a slightly more open stance than the rest of our industry colleagues.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeFries. I think Danielle Bass was raising her hand. Did you have something to add, Danielle?
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to clarify that there are multiple green fee type legislation bills before the state legislature this legislative session. So this is one method of green financing. And in our testimony, we note that actually green financing includes a wide variety of investments to promote sustainable development, environmental resilience, and natural resource management, climate mitigation, and adaptation. So there are many mechanisms of green financing to include, but not limited to, carbon offsets, carbon taxes, climate change mitigation fees, green fees, surcharges on fossil fuel vehicles, as well as proposed increased barrel taxes. So with the Office of Planning, as we're looking at all of these proposals of various green financing methodologies, we are noticing that and do recommend a more collaborative, inclusive, and holistic method of green financing to include all public, private, and non-governmental stakeholders. Additionally, we'd like to highlight that it is a multi-agency approach across state government, which many of our state agencies are working on: green infrastructure revitalization, natural resource preservation, environmental preservation, climate mitigation, and adaptation. So we do recommend that this should be applied equitably across all state agencies as well for their green jobs and their green workforce development.
Yeah, complicated. It's not easy being green. Okay, sorry, that was a joke. Any questions of those who are testifying? Oh, Senator Favela?
Concept looked great. I like what two of the senators are saying going forward. We should take responsibility too. So if we want to do a green free initiative, and then we're going to tax the tourists and just the tourists, why shouldn't we, all the departments and all the departments' employees, take out a 1 cent or $1 for green fees? And all of us pay, everybody in the state. Then you can generate the money. But just going to say we're going to tax tourism, like right now we try to get the trails and the Panama Bay all those fees raised up because we want to protect our environment, want to be able to take care of our resources. But then we just want to do surcharges in transit tax because that's our big moneymaker. So let's go over there and suck the blood out of there. If we all into the green fees and everything, yeah, I'll give $1 a month from my paycheck. Set something up. Since you say all the departments should be accountable, well, legislatively, are accountable. It's like when we used to give to March of Dimes or any other cause. Give us an option. If we really want to protect our environment, then do that to the whole state. Not just people that we know that they're going to come here. Like you said, they're coming over here for business, and then they're going to have to pay because they come 4 times. Out of the 4 times, they're going to pay 1 time. That guy's going to get pissed off. He might not want to do business in Hawaii because it's so costly, you know? And we have a lot of that coming in here from Asia, all over the world. But instead of going this direction, if we really, you know, hyped up in trying to stay green like we all want to do, then all the departments should come up with an idea and ask each employee to donate some money to the green fees. I mean, that's how we're going to get everybody involved, including the tourists. That's my thing. I'm just thinking that it's not the right approach right now to do, sadly. Thank you.
Okay. So we can amend the bill. Senator Fabella will donate $1 every month, and that's his green fee. Man, just joking. Okay, members, any further questions? No. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to our next agenda. That is the 345 agenda. We have one bill on this agenda.
Agriculture.
Oh, we're not going to go on then. Okay, just joking. We will break briefly for some discussion on before the vote. Thank you for your patience. We are back in session for the Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. We have 2 measures that we will be voting on. First one is Senate Bill 1320 relating to regenerative tourism. And the chair has talked to the members, and we would like to pass this measure as is. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For SB 1320, Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, Chair recommends pass as is. For all Chair votes aye. For all other members present, are there any nays or reservations? Your recommendation is adopted, Chair.
Thank you. And we are on to Senate Bill 666 relating to environmental protection. This is the bill that would levy a $40 surcharge on every tourist who comes here once in a given year. Feel that that is super hard for anybody to administer to figure out how many times somebody comes in a given year. So we're going to just chop the fee down to $20, and that $20 will be assessed every time a visitor stays here in Hawaii. And whether they stay for 1 day or 100 days, it'll be a one-time $20 charge per visit. And we're also going to make another change. Instead of having this thing go into effect in July of this year, we're going to change it so that once the state of Hawaii, through research done by the Hawaii Tourism Authority, once Hawaii Tourism Authority says that we have hit more than 5 million visitors in any given year, then this program will kick into effect. If, heaven forbid, we run into another pandemic in the next few years and we dip below 5 million visitors, this green fee will disappear as well. So 5 million will be the kind of turning point as to when we turn this green fee on or off, and we have technical non-substantive amendments as well. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucha, I vote yes.
For SB 666, Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. For all other members present, are there any nays or reservations? Hearing none, Chair. Oh, you vote no?
No.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. We are adjourned for that agenda. Oh, thank you everyone for your patience. We are now convening the joint committee with the Committee on Energy, Economic Development and Tourism and our good friends from the Committee on Agriculture and Environment. We have one measure on this 345 agenda, and that is Senate Bill 263 relating to economic development. First on our testifiers list, we have Phyllis Shimabukuro Kaiser from the Department of Agriculture.
Aloha, Chair Wakai, Chair Gabbard, members of the committee, Phyllis Shimabukuro Geyser, Hawaii Department of Agriculture. I'm going to briefly read our testimony. We have some corrections to what was submitted, and we're following up with a corrected version. So the department appreciates the intent of the bill, provided that the measure doesn't impact the executive budget, and we offer comments. Clearly defining the term non-agricultural manufactured products is critical for the effective implementation of the bill without jurisdictional ambiguity. When determining whether an item qualifies for the use of the Made in Hawaii label, the department considers the percentage of the wholesale value that is deemed to be sourced in Hawaii, be it through production, manufacturing, assembly, or fabrication. The statute is not concerned with whether the product is agricultural or non-agricultural, and this could create jurisdictional confusion between Department of Agriculture and DBED. The department also notes that the USDA definition of agricultural product excludes salt and water, which should be stated as a non-agricultural in the definition to align with federal programs. We comment that suitable resources may be needed by both DBED and Department of Agriculture to implement this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Next we have Dennis Lin from DBED.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair,
Aloha.
committee members. Dennis Ling with the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism for Mike McCartney, Director. DBED stands in its written testimony offering comments. We have also conferred with HTD, High Technology Development Corporation of Hawaii, and they concur with us, especially on the point regarding the need for a budget. Thank you very much for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Dennis. We have Young Oh from the Chamber of Commerce has submitted commentary, and we have Valerie Wang in support. Valerie?
Aloha, Chair Wakai, Chair Gabbard, and members of the committee. My name is Valerie Wang, and I am a serial entrepreneur and lifelong small business advocate. I am here to support the changes made to Bill 263, where the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism will oversee a Made in Hawaii program for non-agricultural manufactured products, and to expand the definition of wholesale value in determining whether or not a product qualifies to use the Made in Hawaii trademark to include Hawaii-sourced goods, services, and intellectual property. By enhancing the Made in America program and moving part of the management to DBED, we can implement a number of new partnerships and programs that will directly support more small and medium-sized business owners. With these two requested changes, the Made in Hawaii program can give more local business owners a marketing tool and value prop unique to Hawaii that will give them a competitive advantage selling on the mainland and internationally, which in turn will help our business owners create sales and increase revenue growth, and therefore create new jobs. In a year such as this past year, we need to think creatively on how to support our local business community. These two initiatives will allow for additional oversight and access to a program that will ultimately create new jobs, diversify our economy, and create sustainability and economic resiliency in Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Members, any questions of those who are online?
I have a question, Chair.
Yep, Senator Misalucha.
For Department of Agriculture. So Phyllis, do you have any idea how many small businesses will be impacted if this bill goes through? Like, based on the current definitions that you said about how they're sourced?
Senator, thank you for the question. You know, we don't have that idea. We could get back to you with how many small businesses that apply for the use of the logo with our department and provide that information.
Thank you,
But-
appreciate that.
Okay?
Any other questions?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Any of our senators online have questions? No? Phyllis, I have a couple of questions for you. Going back to what Senator Misalucha mentioned, can you just give us a ballpark figure? Are we talking about dozens of people apply for the Made in Hawaii designation, or hundreds or thousands?
It's not uncommon for me on a bi-monthly basis to get maybe renewal, well, a lot of them are renewals. That's why, I don't want to misrepresent the metrics to you, but there is a steady flow of renewals and new applications that come to the department. So I would say, it's not like a couple dozen. I don't know if it would be over 100 or less than 100, but I would be more comfortable providing that metrics to you after the hearing.
Okay, and are a majority of whatever you get in, are they ag, or is it 50-50 ag and other locally produced products?
I would say, just based on my memory, a lot of them could be considered agricultural. We do have like clothing, and there's been some other maybe which could be considered souvenirs, but they do indicate in the inputs, or the ingredients, or the supply, what is locally sourced.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, a majority of the applicants you get are ag related, correct?
Yes, based on my recollection, but I will confirm that, so you have correct information.
Okay, and Phyllis, you have another brand, Grown in Hawaii, correct?
I would have to defer to Sharon Hurd about the Grown in Hawaii, but what I normally sign off on is the Made in Hawaii.
Okay, well, I went online and then I saw
We
that.
have our seal of quality also.
Okay. I just see that, the Made in Hawaii brand is such a powerful tool, and to be honest, it's not being fully utilized because the history of it has been more geared towards agricultural products. And just want to help use that brand mark to help grow other manufacturing, whether it's ukuleles, whether it's apparel or whatever, non-ag products. And it's, in my opinion, not blossoming in that way under the Department of Ag. So is it okay if we pull the Made in Hawaii branding and all the promotion of it, put it in DBED, and then leave you with the Grown in Hawaii branding, as well as the one that you just mentioned, I'm sorry, the other program you have there, and leave those two marketing tools with you, and have Made in Hawaii really focus on manufactured goods rather than on agricultural products?
I guess our main concern is that there's no clear definitions in the existing statute of what is defined as non-agricultural products and what is agricultural products. So, if the measure does move forward, then we would want to have clear definitions for those two categories of products.
Okay, can I offer you a definition? So the definition of Grown in Hawaii will be any perishable consumer commodity unless the perishable consumer commodity is wholly grown within the state, or the input claimed to be grown in Hawaii in the manufactured product uses no less than 95% of the input claimed to be grown in Hawaii. So we really want to, as best we can, maybe not 100%, but make sure that 95% of anything that's either labeled grown in Hawaii, either grown in Hawaii, or if there's a value add proposition to it, that's 95% of whatever the inputs are grown in Hawaii. Is that definition satisfactory to you?
My answer is based on, again, what I recall of the applications and renewals that are coming forward. And I think the 95% requirement might be a bit too high. There are agricultural value-added products that are over the 51%. Some of them will hit the 90 percentile, but we have a lot of them that are like more than 51, but between under 90.
Okay, how about 60?
So it depends on the value-added product that has the agricultural input in it.
Okay, so what's the number you suggest?
Gee, I mean, like I said, I would have to confer with staff on getting those metrics and seeing what the vast majority of the applications, what their percentage of compliance is with the statute.
Okay, thank you, Phyllis. I'm just going to throw in 60, and you can figure out what the number should be in the next committee. Members, any further questions? If not, thank you. We're going to go into our breakout room. Welcome back. We are reconvening our Joint Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, and our friends from the Committee on Agriculture, our 345 agenda, had one item on this agenda, that is Senate Bill 263 relating to economic development. This is about the Made in Hawaii program, and I really believe that Hawaii has a golden opportunity to spur manufacturing, the brand, whether it's tourism or agricultural products or Hawaii locally made products. We really can be, in my opinion, better capitalizing on that brand and see that it might blossom a little bit more, particularly for manufacturing, if we were to place it in D-bed. So I would like to make a few amendments to Senate Bill 263. The first is to recognize that to realize the immense opportunities, we're going to have to fund this with a body, and would like to put $150,000 in funding within HTDC to have an individual or individuals help promote the Made in Hawaii brand. And right now, the Made in Hawaii statute and language lives in the Department of Agriculture in Chapter 286, and we're going to move that into DBED, which is Chapter 201. 486. Did you say 286 or 486? 486, I apologize. We're moving it from 486 into 201, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, we're moving it essentially the language from the Department of Agriculture and moving the Made in Hawaii tool into DBED. And sorry, bear with me. For the record, I have to define how we're going to do that. So in Chapter 201, Grown in Hawaii Program Oversight, the Department of Agriculture shall oversee a Grown in Hawaii program for agricultural products and manufactured products using Hawaii-grown inputs. No person shall keep, offer, display, or expose for sale or solicit for the sale of any item, product, souvenir, or any other merchandise as is labeled Grown in Hawaii, or that by any other means represents the origin of the item as being from any place within the state, or uses the phrase grown in Hawaii as an advertising or media tool for any product that has not been solely grown in Hawaii and or have at least 20% of its inputs grown by a certified grown in Hawaii with Aloha raw product within the state. And we'll go on to talk about grown in Hawaii is an advertising or media tool for any perishable consumer commodity unless the perishable consumer commodity is wholly grown within the state or the input claimed to be grown in Hawaii in the manufactured product uses no less than 60% of the input claimed to be grown in Hawaii. Sorry, members, that was kind of a long dissertation on how we're going to define what is allowable and what is not allowable. And okay, what I just mentioned about the definitions is in Chapter 486. I'm sorry if I spoke and said it was a different chapter, but that is in Chapter 486. And we also have technical, non-substantive amendments. So members, EET, any discussion? Okay, if not, for EET members, recommendation is to pass this measure with the stated amendments. Chair, Senator Misalucha, Chair votes yes.
For SB 263, Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, Chair recommends passing this measure with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Lee is excused, Senator Rivera is excused, Senator Favela.
Aye.
Your recommendation's adopted, Chair.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Members, any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Nishihara, excused. Senator Ocasio?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Favela?
Aye.
Measure passes. Thank you, members.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.